You have a feedback to give. You know it is important. You know the person needs to hear it, and you are not giving it because they are older than you. Maybe they are a senior colleague. Maybe they are a tech lead who has been in the company for 15 years. Maybe they are on your team and have been in the industry longer than you have been working. You have the data, you have the observation, you have the role, and still you're holding back. Here is what I want to say to you today. The discomfort you feel is not a character flaw, it is a trained response. Most of us were taught directly or indirectly that age equals authority, that giving feedback up the seniority ladder is somehow disrespectful. But here is what nobody tells you: withholding honest feedback from someone because of their age is not respect. It is a form of writing them off, and it will quietly damage the relationship far more than the feedback ever could. Today, I'm going to show you the 5 things people do when giving feedback to someone older. Things that feel safe, but actually make everything worse. Mistake number 1: you over apologize before the feedback even starts. You have seen this. You have probably done this as well. Someone starts a feedback conversation with, "I'm sorry to bring this up. I know you have so much more experience than me. I might be completely wrong about this." But by the time the actual feedback arrives, it is already buried. The other person has already decided. This person does not believe what they are about to say. In IT, I see this constantly. A senior developer has been writing code a certain way for 10 years. A younger team lead spots a pattern that is creating the tech debt. And instead of naming it clearly, they wrap it in so many layers of qualification that the message just disappears. Here is the truth: when you over apologize before giving feedback, you are not being humble, you are being unclear. And unclear feedback does not help anyone, regardless of the age. The person who needed the message walks away without it, and you walk away feeling like you tried when you didn't. Not really. Mistake number 2: you frame the feedback as your personal problem, not a shared one. This one sounds like, "I personally find it a bit difficult when," or "from my perspective, I sometimes struggle with." You're making the feedback about your feelings instead of making it about the work. Here is why this backfires. When you personalize feedback, you invite the other person to dismiss it because now they can see or think that is your problem, not mine. And if the other person is older and more senior, they will often exercise that option. Think about a project, a retrospective in a software team. A manager needs to give feedback to a senior architect who consistently makes decisions without documenting them. If they say, "I personally find it hard to follow the reasoning behind some of the architectural choices," the architect hears. This junior person is confused. If they say, "When architectural decisions are not documented, the team spends an average of 2 to 3 hours per sprint reconstructing the context, it is slowing us down." The architect hears, and there's a real problem here. Same observation, completely different impact. The difference is whether you anchor the feedback to business reality or to your own personal experience. Age becomes irrelevant when feedback is clearly about the work. Mistake number 3: you wait until you are frustrated, then give the feedback all at once. Here is how this plays out. You notice something 3 months ago. You say nothing because they are senior, because it feels a little awkward, because maybe it will sort out by itself. It does not sort out itself. You notice it again and again and again. And then one day, in a meeting, or after a tough sprint, or after a difficult client call, it comes out. All of it at once. And to the person receiving it, it does not feel like feedback. It feels like an attack. It feels like you have been building up a case against them, and their response, especially if they are older and have a longer track record than you, will almost certainly be defensive. Not because the feedback is wrong, because of how it arrived. In IT teams, I have watched this pattern destroy working relationships between talented people. A product manager holds back feedback about a lead developer's estimation accuracy month after month until the project is in crisis, and then delivers 6 months of frustration in one conversation. The developer does not hear, "You have a pattern to work on." The developer hears, "You have been judging me this entire time." Feedback given late is not just less effective, it is often experienced as a personal verdict, maybe vendetta, not as a professional observation. The fix is simple, in principle. Give it early, give it small, give it while the relationship is healthy, not while it is already under strain. Mistake number 4. You confuse their experience with their authority over the feedback. Well, this is a mindset mistake, and it is worth spending a moment here. Experience and authority are not the same thing. Someone can have 15 years of experience and still have a blind spot. In fact, the longer someone has operated in a certain way, the harder it is for them to see the pattern themselves. Here is something I observed over many years watching careers from the inside. The professionals who grew the fastest were the ones who could receive the input from anywhere, regardless of the source's seniority, and the ones who stagnated, often the most technically capable people, were the ones who filtered feedback through hierarchy, only accepted it from above, dismissed it from peers or juniors. When you assume that someone's experience means they cannot benefit from your observation, you are not respecting their seniority. You are underestimating them. You are assuming they are too fragile for honest input. Most experienced professionals, when feedback is given well, are more capable of receiving it than you think. What they cannot receive is feedback that feels like it is coming from a place of judgment rather than genuine care for the work. That distinction matters enormously. And mistake number 5, you give the feedback and then immediately look for reassurance. You have delivered the feedback clearly, anchored to the work at the right time, and then almost immediately you start softening it again. But I could be wrong about this. Or I just wanted to share my perspective. Do you think that this is fair? You are asking the other person you just gave the feedback to validate it, to validate you. And what happens? They end up managing your discomfort instead of processing the feedback. The conversation shifts from their growth to your need for approval. In team leadership contexts, especially when a younger manager is giving feedback to an older team member, this pattern is incredibly common. The manager delivers the message, the silence feels uncomfortable, and then immediately start walking it back. The team member reads it as they don't really mean it, and the behavior that prompted the feedback just continues. Here is what to do instead: give the feedback, stop, let the silence exist. The discomfort of that silence is not a signal that you have done something wrong. It is a signal that the feedback has landed. Give them the room to process. You do not need to be reassured right now. What matters is whether the feedback was true, not whether it was immediately welcomed. So here is what we have covered. Over-apologizing before you start buries the message. Making it personal instead of anchoring it to the work invites dismissal. Waiting until you are frustrated turns the feedback into a verdict. Confusing experience with immunity underestimates the person. And asking for reassurance immediately after shift the conversation to you. None of these mistakes happen because you are weak. They happen because giving feedback across an age gap is genuinely uncomfortable. And discomfort, unless you learn to work with it, it will always find a way to water down your honesty. The people who can give clear, caring, well timed feedback, regardless of the other person's age or seniority, are the people who get trusted with more responsibility. Not because they are aggressive, but because they are honest. And that kind of honesty, done with care, is one of the rarest things in a professional setting. You already know what needs to be said. Now you know how to say it. If this video gave you something real, hit the like button. It tells me that these kind of direct conversations are worth having more of. And if you want to be in the room every time I put out these, subscribe. Every week, couple of videos, no fluff, no recycled content. And if you know someone on your team, maybe a younger manager, maybe a senior colleague who's sitting on feedback they haven't been able to give, share it with them. Sometimes one conversation changes everything. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.